Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Rob Liefeld Thursday, possibly the last Rob Liefeld Thursday ever. I will know for sure once I move officially. The big move is in 3 days now and counting, moving from our apartment in the city to our new home in the country. So once I get there and I can get through the boxes of comics I got there, open them up again, and start putting them back in my library, I'll know for sure if I have any at all Rob Liefeld comics left to review. I don't think so, but you never know. There might be a few surprises. But if not, then this will definitely be the last Rob Liefeld review, at least for a little while. And then I'll be getting into that Rob Liefeld retrospective I've been talking about. That's going to take me probably a few months to get together all the data information I want to create a video. Not really a review, but an overview of a career for Rob Liefeld and some of his influences along the way. It's basically the idea behind that one. So I'll get that done at some point. That one might be a little bit longer than most of our videos. But that's enough about what's going on here. Let's talk about Judgment Day. Judgment Day. Right? This is the final judgment, the most judgiest of judgments. A few disappointments here. One thing that's not disappointing is the fact that Alan Moore writes it, so it's probably your better than your run-of-the-mill Youngblood story overall. What is disappointing, though, is right away the cover, right? No artist was paid for this. Obviously, just some straight-up design work. Maybe the funds are running out or something. I don't know, since issue 1. I don't have issue 2, so again, we're covering issue 3. And another disappointment is, of course, I guess, indicative of many Rob Liefeld comics after he left Marvel and he went to Image. This idea that Rob Liefeld would, kind of publicize the comic as being drawn by him, but once you get to it, it's actually just a few pages and other artists are helping out. In some bits of the storyline, just like in issue 1, where it's like a flashback or something and a different artist does that, I don't have such a problem with that because that kind of works aesthetically, right? With the fact that it's a flashback, it kind of reinforces the fact that that's what's going on. And there's an example of that in this comic here. But the overall kind of plot line, story A throughout the comic, unfortunately, is drawn by Rob Liefeld and a bunch of other different artists and, those kind of Liefeld clones and stuff. And again, he did this on a lot of comics at Image, and I guess he's doing it again at Awesome Entertainment. So, guess he hasn't learned his lesson when it comes to comics. People who are into Rob Liefeld comics, I am to a certain degree, but I am when he draws the whole thing. Anyways, enough about this. Let's have a look inside. So Alan Moore writer, Rob Liefeld has pages 21 to, I can't see, it's really small, 21 to 25. And that's basically it. Now, page 1 to 5 says it's Marat Michaels. I suspect that Marat Michaels probably did all this stuff here because it's complicated bits. The musculature is a little bit different and it's not Liefeld-esque. Maybe even closer to Jim Lee than anything else with the diehards back here and the aesthetic on it. But these two faces definitely, I would say, would have to have been drawn by Rob Liefeld. So I think here and there he's still doing faces throughout, but the only official pages they did fully are pages 21 to 25. At the same time, we'll check the backgrounds because who knows, a lot of times, even though he takes the credit for the pages, other artists are doing the backgrounds. So Marat Michaels has some pages and Cedric Noson or Nakon, I don't know how to say that. John Sabal is the inker, Larry Stucker, Norm Ratmond. So again, one of these typical Extreme Studios books, or in this case, Awesome books, where it's just a whole bunch of different artists, pencilers and inkers doing the same story, and it hurts the flow. You would think when you have a writer of Alan Moore's caliber, you would at least want to throw in the same artist for the whole issue for it to be consistent, but that's not what's going on here. Flashback sequences by Jeff Johnson and Dan Panosian, Rick Veitch, Ian Churchill, Norm Ratmond, and Eric Stevenson, editor, and Jeff Loeb, publisher. So some interesting stuff. I might talk about the art in passing, just like I did here for Marat Michaels, but we're here for Rob Liefeld, and I'll talk a little bit about the story. So this might be a pretty quick review. I mean, other artists on the series, I guess, are okay. They're solid. They've got that Image Extreme look, but whoever did the backgrounds here is doing a pretty good job. So this is a courtroom drama, superhero courtroom drama, right? A bit of backstory is that Alan Moore was very much influenced by the O.J. Simpson trial. So a lot of what's worked into here is from inspiration he got from, I guess, watching the trial pretty much every day, I would assume, because he's a writer, so he's probably doing it at home. So yeah, this was the artist who I went, like, when I saw this art, sorry, he's inked by Dan Panosian, but Jeff Johnson. Yeah, so Jeff Johnson here, inked by Dan Panosian. I was like, man, why not just ask this guy here to draw the whole comic? He seems to be the most well-rounded, most competent artist of the bunch here, even compared to Rob Liefeld. Rob Liefeld might be more popular and splashier and crazy with his style, but this guy's got pretty much all the solid kind of foundations of drawing that you would want here. Foreshortening, perspective, all of that he's got down. His backgrounds are pretty evocative, so yeah. And then we get back to an extreme page and the Rob Liefeld type faces. And again, I don't think he drew this page, but I suspect here it's either him doing the faces or someone trying to draw a lot like Rob Liefeld. I feel like this is almost lifted pretty much, other than the fact that he's kind of crouched or sitting down, whatever you want to call that. Kind of an odd position to be in, during a trial, just sitting on, anyways, sitting on, I don't know what that is exactly. But yeah, this feels almost lifted exactly from issue 1 where we see him in the Liefeld suppository handcuffs. I like the art here right away. Before I looked at the credits, as I was going through this comic before the review, I recognized Rick Veitch, his art right away. Just there's something in the line quality and the compositions that just clued me in right away. There's like, I don't know, there's like some modern stuff but some old school stuff kind of mixed in with Rick Veitch. I like his stuff a lot, especially his more independent stuff that he did. Not DC and not Swamp Thing, but Brat Pack is great, and the Max Immortal and all that stuff is really fun. Kind of his take on the history of comics through a comic book, twisted comic book superhero story. Really fun. Oh, there he is again. Almost been light boxed again, it feels like. Just shadows, more shadows added. He has no more shirt on. So lack of consistency throughout this comic. I don't know if it's in this issue, but if I notice it, I'll point it out. The same word, like narration box with the same words in it, was put in twice in the same panel. So really get a sense that the guys who are working on this were working at a breakneck pace or speed. Yeah. So again, there's not a lot of superhero action in this one. And you know, I'm going through it quickly because I still haven't seen many Rob Liefeld pages. This guy here is more of a Jim Lee style Wildstorm kind of clone. And yeah, just the action only really starts around this point here. So Sentinel here, I like the art. I forget, you know what, since we're going to be talking about it, who drew that? Ian Churchill, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. I recognize his art, I just couldn't remember his name. Kind of almost like a 90s Neil Adams kind of vibe from this period from Ian Churchill. Pretty cool. Bit of Greg Capullo mixed in there. Yeah, that's a great pinup. That's a great page. So it's revealed that basically this book here is what Sentinel has had in his possession. So the whole conceit of the story is that, you know, this magical book can kind of like rewrite reality. And as superhero periods advanced through the 60s, 70s, 80s, etc., he basically kept rewriting the story to make himself a cool superhero. It's kind of a weird conceit. I guess, again, that OJ idea of, you know, OJ's reality, you know, that maybe he would have expected for the rest of his life changed when he played football and went to play, you know, pro football and campus football, all that stuff. And that led him to a different reality, right? If you've seen the amazing documentary, I forget, is it OJ, The American Dream, Dream in America? The name escapes me right now, but you can look it up. It's like it's like 8 or 9 hours total or something, but it's riveting. I watched it twice. It's great. Yeah, here's the panel. So these two narration boxes here actually will help explain the story as well. I won't read it twice, but again, it's the same narration twice. He writes himself stunning adventures, although sometimes they're too tame for the old embittered Marcus who's still inside him. There isn't enough shooting. He doesn't get to kill enough people. So there's that second narration box again, leading me to believe this issue was produced pretty quickly. Around the middle 1980s, Marcus had grown bored of this. He decided to write a nastier, shadowier, and more violent world for himself. This should recall Dark Knight Returns, right? Obviously. And for everybody else. Our entire reality changed and darkened. So kind of a reference to the fact that Dark Knight Returns, you know, led to that grim and gritty kind of trend in superhero comics that really culminated with the Image comics of the early 90s, right? That's what they're going to refer to here. I'll read that. Gone was the naive wonder of the 40s, the exuberance of the 50s, and the nobility of the 60s. Working a dreadful reverse alchemy, Marcus Langston let our world slide from a golden age to a silver age and finally to a dark age. Now heroes motivated only by money or psychopathology. I've never said that word in my life. Yeah, psychopathology. I feel like, okay, I see what there's a letter missing here. This word is misspelled. There should be OLOGY, right? Psychopathology. Yes, I'm not mistaken there. Stalked a paranoid apocalyptic landscape of post-nuclear mutants and bazooka-wielding cyborgs, which I guess is the image, Alan's Moore description of the Image universe. And I think it's hilarious. I'll read it again, continue here. Again, his view in the Image universe. Now heroes motivated only by money or psychopathology stalked a paranoid apocalyptic landscape of post-nuclear mutants and bazooka-wielding cyborgs. Our universe had been sucked into a bad action movie of constant, meaningless mayhem. And the star of that movie was its writer and director, Marcus Langston. So Alan Moore is basically saying that the whole creation of the Image universe, and maybe the worst side of it, the extreme stuff, and the the kind of nonsensical stuff, the extreme books, Wildcats, what was that? I forget Jim Lee's company, the name escapes. Wildstorm, there it is. Yeah, so I think it's hilarious that, like, Alan Moore's writing these comics, but also throwing in a jab towards, the origins of these comics and how they were kind of put out there kind of haphazardly. I love this. Our universe has been sucked into a bad action movie of constant meaningless mayhem. I guess that's a good description of the Image universe. So basically, we thought the killer during the courtroom drama was the Australian Gambit guy, Night Saber. There you go. But actually, what we're finding out as the lawyer's going through his thing and talking about this book is that Sentinel actually is the person who is the actual killer. So I was mistaken. I thought Night Saber, would possibly be found to be the killer. And I was thrown off the trail, but in fact, it was actually who Rob Liefeld talked about in one of those kayfabe interviews as his African-American character, killing a white character, basically mirroring the O.J. Simpson trial. So these are the Rob Liefeld pages. Like I said, for issue 1, I don't mind the art as much as maybe stuff right before this, a few years earlier, like later Image when it was inked by Danny Meeke and other guys. I feel like he's going back slightly to a slightly rougher kind of look to his art, which I kind of like. I don't hate it. So the Rob Liefeld bits in this are all right. The fact that her face is all shadowed out here is kind of a, again, like, wow, could you not spend time on just a few features here for her? So, of course, Liefeld has the sequence that has the one cool kind of superhero shot, other than the one we saw by Ian Churchill. Very Liefeld-esque, right? Kind of a typical Liefeld pose. I mean, that's the kind of stuff we want to see from him anyways, right? I will say I like this interesting effect of the panel not actually being square and kind of like getting sucked in almost by the power of Sentinel's movement. I think that's a pretty cool touch, honestly. It's just odd again because, like I said, I just feel like overall, especially with the courtroom drama stuff, maybe not so much with the action sequences, Rob Liefeld is just not the best artist, best suited to drawing Alan Moore scripts. And right away, he's already out, and we've got another extreme artist finishing up these issues. Interesting shot of Prophet and Supreme just kind of having a drink there at Supreme's Citadel. And Sentinel's been caught somehow, and I think that's where this ends, basically. Except with the epilogue, of course, and this character here, who I have no idea who that is, finding this book. And if it leads somewhere, I don't know. I've got Judgment Day post-coital or something it's called. I don't know for sure. The issue after this, Aftermath, or it's got some sort of name like that. But Rob Liefeld draws absolutely nothing in it, so I'm not going to be going over that. This Prophet figure looks actually pretty cool. It's actually quite subdued, I think, as compared to Rob Liefeld's style, or maybe Stephen Platt, who was drawing him in this costume at this time. Pretty darn cool, though. And there you go. Judgment Day, the trade paperback. What? repackaging the epic 96-page story with an original 10-page Judgment Day prelude story by Alan Moore and Chris Sprouse. So it's Alpha, Omega, and Final Judgment is this issue, right? Yeah, that's right. So issue 1 is Alpha. I didn't know issue 2 was called Omega, but why? Why even do that stuff? Story by Alan Moore, art by Rob Liefeld. Yeah, about maybe 15 pages of the whole thing. I don't know for sure. At least he notes all the other artists. All right, guys, possibly, again, we'll find out next week, the last Rob Liefeld review ever on Big Baby Reviews. At least for the time being. You know, any other stuff kind of pops in my collection that I find interesting that features Rob Liefeld art that I haven't covered, obviously, I more than likely will at some point. So those of you who are subscribed and still watching, thank you so much for the loyalty. I really do appreciate it. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors to subscribe to the channel. If you're watching and you're not subscribed, please do so below. It only takes a quick second, really helps out the channel, helps us grow, helps us attain our goal, our next milestone of 500 subscribers. That's the point at which YouTube officially recognizes us as an actual channel, so it really helps if you subscribe to the channel. So thank you everybody for watching, and have yourselves an awesome day. King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.
Like! Subscribe! Like! Subscribe!